Take a deep breath. Hold it. Now imagine you are sinking. For the first 10 meters, the water is warm and blue. Sunlight dances on your skin. But as you descend past 30 meters, the colors begin to fade. The pressure builds against your eardrums. At 100 meters, the sun is no longer a source of heat. It is just a pale blue disk above you. You have reached the edge of the world humans were meant to survive in. But you keep going down. At 500 meters, the darkness is almost absolute. The temperature drops to near freezing. The weight of the water above you is now crushing. It presses against your body with the force of a sledgehammer on every square inch of skin. Your lungs would collapse. Your heart would struggle to beat. But you are not alone here. Something brushes past your leg, something cold. You can't see it, but you can feel the water moving. We like to think of monsters as fiction. We invent zombies, ghosts, and aliens to scare ourselves in movie theaters. But the truth is much more disturbing. The most terrifying creatures in the universe aren't on another planet. They are right here, beneath the surface of our own oceans. And the deeper you go, the more twisted they become. This is not a story about fish. This is a story about physics. The ocean is not just a tank of water. It is a layered cake of nightmares. And every layer has its own rules. To survive in the deep, evolution had to get creative. It had to break the standard blueprint of life and build something wrong. Consider this. If you cut your finger at a depth of 30 meters, you would scream. But not because of the pain. You would scream because your blood wouldn't look red. It would look jet black. This happens because water absorbs light. The color red has the longest wavelength and the lowest energy, so it is the first to die. By the time you reach the deep, red light does not exist. And this simple fact of physics explains the first layer of horror. Evolution weaponized the color red. Many deep-sea predators have evolved to be bright red. On the surface, they would look like giant swimming targets. But down here in the gloom, they are literally invisible. They are ghosts. They can swim right in front of your face, and you would never know they were there until you felt their teeth. But invisibility is just a parlor trick compared to what comes next. As we leave the last traces of sunlight behind, we cross an invisible line. Scientists call it the mesopelagic zone, but those who have been there call it something else. The Twilight Zone. Here the eyes of creatures don't just look around. They look up, and they are watching you right now. We are now descending past 200 meters, the Twilight Zone. This is a world of perpetual dusk. If you looked up from here, you would see a very faint, ghostly blue shimmer far above. It looks peaceful, but in reality, this faint light makes the Twilight Zone the most dangerous place in the ocean to hide. Imagine you are a predator swimming below. If you look up, any fish swimming above you will block that faint blue light. They cast a silhouette. They become a perfect black cutout against the surface. It is like a sniper looking through a scope. If you cast a shadow, you die. So evolution came up with a solution that sounds like magic. Invisibility cloaks. Meet the hatchetfish. It looks like a silver coin that has seen a ghost. Its body is razor thin, so it casts almost no shadow from below. But its true genius is on its stomach. The belly of the hatchetfish is covered in special organs called photophores. These organs produce a faint blue light that exactly matches the color and intensity of the sunlight coming from above. It is called counter-illumination. By glowing, the hatchetfish erases its own shadow. It blends perfectly into the background light. It is hiding in plain sight. But nature hates a cheater, and for every shield, there is a sword. If prey animals evolved to be invisible, Predators evolved eyes that can see the impossible. And this brings us to the creature that proves aliens are already here. Look at this fish. It is called the Barreleye, or macropinna. At first glance, it looks sad. You see two small holes above its tiny mouth. You assume those are its eyes. You assume it is looking at you. You are wrong. Those are its nostrils. The Barreleye fish does not have a face in the way you understand it. Its entire forehead is a transparent, fluid-filled shield, like the cockpit of a fighter jet. Now, look inside the transparent skull. See those two glowing green orbs floating in the middle of its brain? Those are its eyes. They are tubular, like binoculars, and they are pointed straight up. The Barreleye spends its life motionless, hovering in the dark, looking up through its own transparent head. It is scanning for the faint silhouettes of prey against the surface light. The green pigment in its eyes acts like sunglasses, filtering out the confusion to reveal the shadows of its victims. It creates a sensation of body horror that is hard to shake. We rely on faces to understand intent. We look for eyes to make contact. But when you look at the Barreleye, you are looking at a machine designed solely for detection. But even this creature follows a logic we can understand. It needs to see. However, as we descend past 1,000 meters, the rules change again. The faint blue light from the surface is gone. The sun has been extinguished. We are entering the midnight zone. And down here, eyes are no longer the most important tool. Down here, the most important thing is a stomach. Welcome to the midnight zone, 1,000 meters down. The pressure here is intense, but the real killer is starvation. There is no sunlight, which means there are no plants. The only food comes from above. Dead whales, poop, and rotting scraps that drift down like a disgusting snow. Biologists actually call it marine snow. Because food is so rare, the creatures here cannot afford to chase it. Chasing burns energy. And if you burn energy without catching a meal, you die. So evolution made a trade-off. It took away their muscles, it took away their scales, and it turned them into floating gelatinous traps. The fish here feel wrong to look at. They are flabby and soft, but they have weapons that belong in a slasher movie. Take the viperfish. Its teeth are so long that they do not fit inside its mouth. They curve back toward its eyes. If it tried to close its mouth completely, it would impale its own brain. It swims with its jaw unhinged, a living bear trap waiting to snap shut on anything that touches it. But the icon of this nightmare realm is the anglerfish. You know this monster. The giant mouth filled with translucent needles, the glowing lure hanging from its forehead like a lantern in a dark forest. It dangles that light in the void, waiting for a curious fish to come closer. And then, snap. Darkness. But the terrifying part of the anglerfish isn't how it eats, it is how it mates. For decades, scientists were confused. Whenever they caught an anglerfish, it was always female. They found these strange, tiny parasites attached to the females' bodies. They assumed it was some kind of infection or disease. They were wrong. Those parasites were the males. In the midnight zone, finding a partner is statistically impossible. It is too dark and too empty. So if a male anglerfish finds a female, he has one mission. He does not ask her out. He bites her. And he never lets go. This is where the horror begins. The male releases an enzyme that dissolves the skin of his mouth and the skin of her body. The wounds fuse together. His blood vessels merge with hers. Slowly, his eyes rot away. He doesn't need them anymore. His fins atrophy, his internal organs dissolve. He physically melts into her body until he is nothing more than a pair of testicles fed by her blood. A single female can carry multiple males on her body. They are not partners. They are living, breathing sperm banks grafted onto her flesh. This is the brutal logic of the deep. intimacy does not exist. Individuality is a luxury. Survival is the only law. But while biology is getting twisted into knots, something else is happening around these creatures. The water itself is turning into a weapon. We are going deeper, to a place where the pressure is so great it doesn't just crush bone, it changes the way matter behaves. To understand the monsters of the deep, you have to understand the invisible force that shapes them. Pressure. When oceanographers send equipment down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, they often tie a styrofoam coffee cup to the outside of the submarine. It is a little tradition. When the cup comes back up, it isn't a cup anymore. It has been shrunk down to the size of a thimble. It is hard as rock and twisted out of shape. That is what the deep ocean wants to do to everything. It wants to crush. At the depths we are exploring now, the pressure is equivalent to having a fully loaded M1 Abrams tank sitting on your chest, or, if you prefer, an elephant balancing on a postage stamp. So, how does anything survive without being turned into a thimble? The answer is simple. You become the water. Solids and liquids are almost incompressible. You can't squeeze water into a smaller space. Air, however, is easily crushed. That is why humans die instantly down here. Our lungs are full of air. They would implode like empty soda cans. Deep sea creatures solved this by getting rid of the air. They don't have swim bladders, the gas-filled balloons that normal fish use to float. Instead, they evolved a different kind of body. This brings us to the most unfairly bullied animal on the internet, the blobfish. You know the picture. A pink, melting pile of slime with a big nose and a frown. It was voted the world's ugliest animal. We laugh at it. We make memes about it. But here is the truth. The blobfish doesn't look like that. The viral photo shows a blobfish that has been dragged up from 1,000 meters deep. It suffered catastrophic decompression. Its tissue structure collapsed. It is literally a corpse that exploded from the inside out. In its natural habitat, the blobfish looks like a normal, functioning fish. But it doesn't have a skeleton made of hard bone. It doesn't have muscle as we know it. Its flesh is a gelatinous mass with a density slightly less than water. It allows the blobfish to float without swimming. It hovers just above the sea floor, expending zero energy, waiting for food to drift into its mouth. It is an engineering marvel. We call it ugly because we dragged it into our world. To the blobfish, we are the monsters. We are the aliens from the low-pressure void above, abducting it and watching it melt. This gelatinous body plan is the only way to survive the crushing weight. By becoming soft, they become unbreakable. But as we descend into the abyss, 4,000 meters and below, this lack of structure leads to something else. When the pressure is this high and the water is this cold, biology stops making sense. Creatures don't just get softer, some of them get bigger. Much, much bigger. We have reached the abyssal plain, 4,000 meters down. The ocean floor here is a vast, flat desert of grey ooze. It stretches for thousands of miles. It is silent, it is cold, and it is home to a phenomenon that scientists call deep-sea gigantism. On land or in shallow water, being big is expensive. You need a lot of food to power a massive body. But down here, the rules invert. The freezing temperatures slow down metabolism to a near halt. Cells can grow larger. Life moves in slow motion. And because of this, familiar things become monstrous. Imagine a woodlouse, a roly-poly, the cute little bug you find under a rock in your garden. Now imagine it is the size of a cat. This is the giant isopod. It patrols the seafloor like an armored tank. It can survive for 5 years without eating a single bite of food. It just waits in the dark, an ancient biological machine, perfectly adapted to a world where time doesn't matter. But the isopod is something we can understand. It looks like a bug. It acts like a bug. There are things down here that do not look like they belong on Earth. In November 2007, a remote-operated vehicle from a Shell oil drilling rig was scanning the darkness at a depth of 2,400 meters. The camera feed was grainy and green. Suddenly, something drifted into the frame. It looked like a long, thin alien. It had a small head and massive, billowing fins. But it was the legs that made the operators freeze. It is called the Magna Pinna squid, the Bigfin squid. Its tentacles are not like normal squid tentacles. They are incredibly long, up to 8 meters, but they don't curl or wave. They hang straight down like strings on a marionette, and they have distinct bends in them, like elbows. It looks like a puppet whose strings have been cut, drifting endlessly in the void. When you watch the footage, your brain rejects it. It looks like bad CGI. It looks like a glitch in the simulation, but it is real. Scientists believe it drags those sticky tentacles across the seafloor, snagging prey in the dark. But we don't know for sure. We have rarely seen them. We know almost nothing about their life cycle, their intelligence, or how many of them are down there. They are just ghosts drifting in the dark. And finally, we reach the bottom. The Hadal Zone, the trenches, 6,000 meters, 7,000, 11,000 meters at the bottom of the Challenger Deep. Here, life is sparse, but it is not gone. We find sea cucumbers that have evolved into translucent vacuum cleaners. We find amphipods that produce their own aluminum armor to survive the crushing pressure. But the scariest thing about the bottom of the ocean isn't the monsters. It is the isolation. If you were standing at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, you would be closer to the vacuum of space than to the surface of the ocean. Fewer people have been here than have walked on the moon. It is the loneliest place on the planet. And yet, as we look at these alien landscapes, we have to face a final, uncomfortable truth. We look at these creatures with horror. We call them freaks. We ask why they are so strange.